I learned this posting method from Chris Danny, the owner and operator of Maverick Dobermans and the owner of the notorious Cheeto Doberman. Hello everybody. This is a tutorial on how to post your puppy's ears. Now, ideally after cropping, we're going to wait 1 to 2 weeks to make sure that the ears are nicely healed. They don't need to be perfect, but you want to make sure that they're mostly healed so that you have a lower risk of infection. Here on this Canis Panther puppy, we have a medium crop. If you have a longer crop, you'll want longer backer rod to compensate for that. Now to do the posting, you're going to need 3 things. Backer rod, athletic tape, and a 1/2 inch wide industrial zip tie. Now we have waited, and we can see the ears are floppy, but if you stand them up, they start to stand a little bit on their own. This is a good sign that the cartilage is well developed and it's on its way to standing on its own. But without posting, the ears have a high risk of being floppy forever. So what we're going to do is we're going to take approximately a 4 to 6 inch length of backer rod. You're going to make sure it sits well above the tip of the ear. And then you want to have approximately 12 inches of athletic tape. What we're going to want to do is about 1/2 to 2/3 of the way up on the backer rod. We're going to stick the athletic tape to it, and then we're going to seat the backer rod into the bottom bell curve of the ear. We're going to seat that in there pretty deep. Don't penetrate the ear canal. And ideally the puppy will be tired from playing at this point. They'll be a little bit more cooperative. As you can see here, I have not followed this precaution, and this puppy wants to move around a lot. Then we're just going to slowly move the athletic tape around the ear. You want it to be snug, not tight. And here I've trapped a little bit of a wrinkle into the ear. That's going to be okay as long as we don't do it the next time. Now it doesn't matter how good you do these postings, you will have to replace these once to twice a day for a single puppy, and more often if you have a litter. Now you'll notice, because we seated the backer rod into the ear, it stands on its own. If you have a smaller bell, then what you can do to give this a little bit extra strength is use child-safe glue on the back of the backer rod and seat that into the ear. And the ears, the skin is constantly releasing wax and sweat, so it's going to wear off in time for your daily change. Next, we're going to take our next piece of backer rod, going to initiate the tape the same way as before, and we're going to seat it, puppy. I know. Yes, very sweet girl. You're doing great. Don't be afraid to give your dog verbal compliments and affirmation while you're doing this. You're going to seat the next backer rod into the next ear, and then with grace and clarity, we will wrap this firmly around the next ear. If you have some adhesive, apparently I put it on backwards. If you have a little bit of adhesive exposed, that's okay. Yeah, there we go. And we want to use athletic tape because it's got a naturally weaker adhesive anyway. It's not meant to stick ducting or anything industrial together, and it's going to breathe a little bit more for her ears. This is appropriate, and it's what we want. Now, we're going to squish that in together, and you'll notice that this ear was decently seated. You're going to run into that problem a lot. That's okay. We don't have to worry about it. This ear is also not seated, but as you can see, it's still standing on its own. In these early phases, the most important thing is to give the ear a blueprint for staying vertical and straight. At this stage, you'll notice at the beginning of the video, the puppy's ears were flopped about halfway down. There's somebody walking past the house. Oh, good girl. Good. Very good. tell her. This is not her territory. But she's on the sidewalk, so we're going to tolerate her, okay? Very good. I got these antenna ears. Very adorable. What you want to do... Yeah. So, what we've done now is we've adjusted the bend from the middle of the ear to the bottom of the ear. This is okay because the bottom of the ear has already been making itself stable, as we saw earlier. And the bend has been in the middle, and now we're just adjusting that. And we're going to correct that as the puppy develops. This should not take you more than 2 weeks to get a totally stable posting. Now on your 1/2 inch wide industrial zip tie, you want to make sure that you cut each end to be sharp. If you're concerned about the safety of the puppy, you can take a Dremel and gently edge that point down. But this should be sharp enough that you can penetrate the backer rod with it. So what you'll do, and you're going to get a lot of head shaking at this point as well. You're going to take the backer rod and going perpendicular to the back of the puppy's skull, go through, lower is better, through the backer rod, just like arts and crafts. And now we have begun our process of stabilizing the ears to each other. Now we're going to do the same thing to the other side. And this is going to be a little bit more challenging. Please be quiet. It's going to be a little bit more challenging, but we can manage. So we're a strong, independent man. Don't need no woman. I'm just kidding. I'm single. Please help me. Okay. This is roughly what the finished product should look like. You want to make sure, come here, sweetheart. Now, here, you want to make sure, and I'll adjust this a little bit in a minute, that you have approximately equal lengths of zip tie poking out of each post. What you're doing here is you're helping the ears stay. You've made each ear vertical by itself, and now you're telling each ear that they need to be at this length. So don't be afraid to adjust each post accordingly to make sure that the ears are parallel all the way up. So if you continue to draw a line from them, they will not ever intersect. From this point, you want to take an extra long length of athletic tape. And what we're going to do is with approximately 10% on the front, you can do it on the back as well, it doesn't matter. You're going to tape it like so. What you're doing is you are attaching the tape to the backer rod, and we're going to fold that down, and we're attaching it to the zip tie. Now what we're going to do is we are going to wrap the tape around the pointed ends on both sides, and from here we can flatten it out, or and you know, I usually prefer to flatten this out on the back side, and then we'll flatten it out again on the front side just to give you a little bit extra overlap. Then we're going to wrap this around the front, and we got some extra tape, and that's okay. Now we're going to squish all that together, and now your puppy's ears are posted. Taping the zip tie like this. She wants to face this way, so we're just going to look at the back of her head. Taping the zip tie like this is going to blunt the sharp edges just a little bit, and it's also going to prevent the zip tie from sliding back and forth, keeping your ears parallel and vertical. And each time you do this, it does not need to be perfect. As long as the next time you do it, whatever flaw you had last time, you fix it. So if you just can't quite get them perfectly parallel, eventually that'll correct itself as you get better with your technique.